Welcome to The Edge, YouTube's hottest new show. Tonight, we've got a guest whose career reads like the ultimate New York screenplay. Before he was a familiar face in the news, he was a decorated NYPD detective who tangled with the city's real-life Goodfellas. Then he became a pal to some of Hollywood's biggest names, turning his authentic street grit into memorable roles in classics like The Wolf of Wall Street and, yes, the original Goodfellas. How do you go from cuffing criminals to sharing scenes with De Niro and DiCaprio? Well, do you juggle a badge, a movie career, and a Rolodex that includes both mobsters and A-list celebrities? This guy figured out a way to do it all. We're cutting through the noise and getting the raw, unfiltered truth from the man who lived it all. Please welcome the legendary detective, actor, and private eye, the one, the only, the literally only, Bo Dietl. All right, let's bring in the legendary, and I don't use that term lightly, the legendary Bo Dietl, also a very close friend of mine for a very, very long time. Bo, really good to have you on The Edge. Show's growing like crazy because of people like you, Bo, because we've been interviewing people who have looked for The Edge, who found The Edge. Sometimes they've been at the edge, literally like looking over the cliff going, am I going to continue with this? They get knocked down and they get back up. But I don't know anyone who's reinvented themselves in a better way than maybe you have. I would take credit that I've done it 3 separate times. First it was professional baseball, and then it was Wall Street, and then it was high-level television. But for a guy like you, Bo, to start, I want you to take us back. If you don't know Bo Dietl, he started in the mean streets of New York City. Tell us how it all started, Bo.
Well, I grew up in an area called Ozone Park, and I grew up with, John Gotti, not the son, the father, the Scopo brothers, all the gangsters, all the spaghetti bender friends. But there was one thing about my father. My father was born in Germany, my mother, Sicily. But my father was a very tough guy, very demanding. The belt buckle used to be imprinted on my ass all the time. If I didn't come in on time, my father would have that belt buckle off. So he used to make me come home at like 8:30 at night, and I was maybe 14 years old, and he would say, you're in the house. The guys I was hanging out with used to go to Idlewild Airport, i.e. Kennedy Airport, and they used to go shopping there. They were hijacking stuff, and I was so afraid of my father that kept me kind of straight. All I wanted to do, Eric, was be a gym teacher. I was on the parallel bars, the high bars. We had the JFK physical fitness, 40 pull-ups, 180 push-ups. Physically, I was in enormous strength. But I wanted to be a gym teacher. We didn't have enough money for me to go to college. So then Ralph Scopo says, go meet Sammy the Weasel on 33rd Street. He'll make you a concrete laborer. That was equivalent to being a slave. Very hard work.
But I stop here. My first job in high school, legit job, same thing. It was in Chicago. I wanted the job, and Chicago is a machine. It's all about you have to know somebody, you have to pay someone off, whatever. So I go there and I ask the alderman, Frank Annunzio, in fact, I need a job. And he's like, you know what, kid, I'll get you a job. You got to leave a couple $100 on the table. I didn't have a dime to my name. Whatever, scrounged up a couple $100. He gave me a job working concrete, Bo. Wow.
Really?
Working concrete. We were pouring curbing, with the rebar into the curb and pouring the concrete.
You were on the fucking curbs, where I was? On the high rises, reinforced concrete with the concrete buggy. You'd put the forms in and lay the rebar, pour the concrete. I saw 4 guys die, fall off the edge into elevator shafts. Really bad. So then I get an opportunity to work as an iron worker. Ralph Scopo says, Bo, they're making the big buildings downtown called the World Trade Center. Go meet Black Mike down there. You could go on there as a permit, not a book holder. So I go down there. That's with the stud wrench where I was a connector with steel. I was afraid of heights, but you know what? I faced my fears. I used to walk back and forth on the steel until I faced my fear. I took the cop test when I was 16. I didn't want to be no friggin' cop. Then they called me, and they kept calling me. And then the third time they called me, I was making a lot of money. I bought a brand new Corvette. Was $3,500. My father actually signed. He didn't give me a beating that day, and he signed for it. And I had a lot of money. I was giving it to my mom and dad. I was living home. Next thing is, I heard from the police department. They said, if you don't take it, you're going to get thrown off the list. Real fast forward, I'm on the roof of the academy. I got a gray uniform, no gun, no badge. I see a guy going up a fire escape. I look, it's like a light went off. So I run off the roof of the academy. The sergeant's saying, Dietl, where you going? I ran down there, I jumped on a fire escape. I chased this guy 5 blocks, got him in the headlock, boom, 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 a couple of shots. He had just robbed the apartment. It was like an epiphany, Eric. And the real fast forward my career, I then originally volunteered as a decoy, where I got mugged over 500 times, been stabbed, shot.
So wait, hold on. Let's not rush through this one right here.
Well, no,
So
we got
you're
to talk about
I
it.
want to hear this. So you're a cop now. You're a young cop, and they say we need decoys. So you're literally the bait. They're throwing chum in the water, and the chum is you.
No,
and they're going to make
you
Go ahead.
volunteer, Eric. You volunteer. I'd wear like a seersucker suit with a briefcase with a watch on, go watch, and you'd become the victim like you were drunk. And then we'd walk into the subway platform. I'd come up. It was like the what's that? The Alakari Desert. What's the name of that joint? The place in Africa where the lions eat everybody. Anyway,
Serengeti.
That one too. Yeah. The
Gotcha.
fucking Serengeti. And some nights I'd get robbed 500-600 times in one night, different locations, all over the city. Then they said, "Bo, you can't decoy in Harlem. It's too dangerous." I said, "That's bullshit." So we had federal money behind us. So I used to get theatrical makeup, put it on. Now they'd say, "Bo, you're doing blackface." Blackface my ass. I tried to look like I was Hispanic because it was in East Harlem. So I did the decoy there. Then I went after all the gangs. They had the Puerto Rican gangs used to go after all the store owners, all the Puerto Rican. I used to hide in back of the store when they'd come in to extort them. I'd come out and beat the shit out of them and all that kind. I didn't lock them up. I'd say, "Come back here, you're going to get locked up." And I never stopped working. I just, day and night, I enjoyed getting bad guys. I hated bullies, and that was my beginning of the police career.
How did you handle your in Ozone Park, which is mob hangout? They don't live there. How did you handle being a cop living amongst the bad guys?
No.
Or I guess there's some sort of unwritten kind of rule that you guys didn't.
It was just
tread on
funny
each
what
other's
you're
turf.
saying. Funny what you're saying, because Ralph Scopo used to have a club there. And then when I became a cop, he called me into the club. And he goes, "Bo, you can't come back in here." I said, "What do you mean you can't? You're like my second father." He goes, "You don't even have an idea what we do." He goes, "You're a cop now, you can't come in here." I said, "Really?" I never worked in organized crime for that reason, because I knew all the wise guys. So I said, let me just work on the street with these gangs that are robbing black and Hispanic people around New York. And that's what I did. And I felt sorry for these people who were being victimized by these scumbags that were on the street with all the stabbings and robberies. And I actually locked up Hector Macho Camacho's gang up in East Harlem. I went after every gang, and it was such a satisfying thing to be helping people, and that was part of it. And then I got involved. There was a case, the most heinous, what's that word?
Heinous.
Come on, I didn't go to fucking college, right? It was one of the most heinous. Ed Koch. They broke into a convent, a Roman Catholic convent on 16th Street. 2 friggin' animals came in. They beat her up. They raped. They sodomized her. They carved 27 crosses. They put a broom into her. They urinated and left her for dead. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. When we came into work, everybody was quiet. I thought a cop got killed. So my partner, Tom Collin, and we went over to the location. And it's just one of the most remarkable. And in my book, One Tough Cop, the first 90 pages describes, to this day, I can't explain what steered us around. We weren't part of no task force. And then all of a sudden, it was so bad, Eric, it happened on a Saturday afternoon. It didn't hit the papers till Wednesday. Then when it hits the papers, Fat Tony Salerno was there. He was one of the Genovese street bosses. He calls me over to the club over there. And he says, "What are you and your Irish partner doing about these guys that raped her?" I said, "We're not part of it. They got 200 detectives from the detective division." Make a long story short, another light goes off. I go see Vinny Rayos at Rayos Restaurant, and Vinny says, "Oh, I heard these guys come from 125th Street." Every aspect of this is the most unbelievable thing. I can't explain what steered us, but Tommy and I started working on it. Next thing is we're investigating. We get a little bit of a lead of a guy who used to rob buildings and stuff. Now, there was one thing. This place, the convent, it came from a roof of an apartment building. So in my mind, the sex crime was secondary. There were burglars, one short, one tall. So that's what I was looking for. So we go to some old black guy's house, old man with a glass eye, gentleman, old-time black gentleman. And he said to me, I said, I want to talk to your son. He had a nickname, Chicago. He goes, I'll let him know that you're around. This was around 12 o'clock. I get a call at 10 o'clock that night. Now, all of a sudden, the guy came home with his hooker girlfriend. He went on a bus to Chicago. Now, remember this, 1981, during the PATCO strike, air traffic controller strike. They're on a bus. I call up the chief of detective guys. I don't know what I got, but I got a feeling this guy knows something. So the chief said, Sabone was his name. He said, get on a bus, Bo, take your partner. Not on a bus, get on a plane. Next plane was 7 o'clock. The only problem was the bus was going to arrive at 5:30 in the morning. What do you do? So I called 315-1212, and I call up. I want the police department. I asked for the detective division, and they go, we don't have one of those. I said, what do you got? Violent crime section. They said, that sounds good. I'll never forget, Eric, Sergeant Kelly, violent crime section. I said, Sarge, how long you been on the job? 26 years. I said, you ever get feelings? Yeah, my whole life is a feeling. 6 cents, they call this, Eric. Next day, I said, the bus is arriving. We have a case where a nun got carved up, 20 cents. And all about it was a national story. I said, I want you to put him and his girlfriend under surveillance. I'll be on a plane. That didn't happen. The bus got in there a lot earlier. So this Sergeant Kelly, who I never met, all of a sudden, I get a phone call. We're on our way to LaGuardia Airport. The detective said, Bo, Sergeant Kelly, Chicago violent crime. Hey, Bo, we got your boy. I said, what do you mean you got my boy? The bus come in earlier. I took a double-barrel shotgun. I put it in his mouth and said, you're going to meet your master. He gave up the second guy. We ran out. We got the second guy. We were up for days. The second guy tells me to do something with my mother, and he didn't know my mother. And I was tired. I was up for 3 days. He says that I gave him a right hook. Statute of limitations on me. Yeah, I did punch him right in the jaw, broke his jaw. He told me to do something to my mother, and he didn't know my mother. So, I mean, I was a real street cop out there. Make a long story short, when they were raping the nun, carving crosses, she didn't have too many rights. So I was a street guy, and then the infamous Palm Sunday massacre, 10 dead, 8 children under the age of 12, 10 dead, shot in the head. I was part of a great task force. They named me as the arresting officer, but there was a lot of great detectives I worked.
So yeah, and you can't do that anymore. I mean, that was the heyday of cops keeping the peace, and you had to bust some heads. You can do now. It's like you can't even touch them. You could be a cop. You can't even touch them. You got the mayor's office breathing down your neck, or worse, or they're prosecuting cops for being too rough with criminals, violent criminals. But so you're a badass cop. You're a street badass stud motherfucking cop, and people don't want to come across Bo. How does Bo become? Why am I watching probably one of the greatest movies of all time, Goodfellas, and I see Bo Dietl in Goodfellas? Where did that come from?
Okay, so when this case, the second case, the Palm Sunday massacre, the largest mass murder at that time in New York history, I was named as a arresting officer. I was all over the TVs. I had a bodyguard company. You couldn't moonlight back then, but I did. From Saudi Arabia, the royal family. So I was bodyguarding them, and I was New York State arm wrestling champion. So they used to fly me to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. We would travel to Paris and London, and they would have with the big Lebanese bodyguards. I was really good at it. Mark Gastineau, I used to rip his arm out, though. So now I was like the jokester. So they would fly me around. They would give me a couple $100,000 when I come back to New York. I put new Cadillac, fancy suits. Everybody thought I was on the take. And that was what happened. So
and you're
now,
still a cop. And you're still a cop doing all this.
I was a detective. I was a homicide detective.
Yeah.
So now I'm with the Arabs over at the Helmsley Palace in New York. Who's in another room, triplex, is Michael Jackson. So his head of security is there, Bill Bray. So my prince and they were in the military, these two princes. They go, Bo, can we meet Michael Jackson? So I hooked it up. Now they go, Bo, you're so famous. You come on our jet. We go to La Jolla. We have a big party. So now we're in La Jolla. They call up Alex the Madam. Now these weren't hookers. These were actresses that were off duty. And they would pay him 25. Stop smiling. Stop the fucking smiling. Listen, $2,500.
Actresses that were off duty.
No, they were $2,500. They got paid to come to a party. Beautiful actresses.
Got it.
Eric, that's what it was. Whatever else happened, I don't want to know. But so now they say, Bo, you're so brave. Do you ever jump out of a plane? I go, no. Are you afraid? I said, no. Next day, I'm on a DC-3. The door is off. I jump out. I end up breaking my leg, my tibia, fibia, ankle, laying in the desert. I had to retire. So when I retire, all of a sudden I get a call. They wanted me to go through the light duty for 6 months, play the game with the doctors. I said, I ain't playing no game. I want to go back on full. They said, we're not putting you back, Bo. I said, well, here's my papers. I lost millions of dollars on disability, which I was hospitalized 30 times. So now Nick Pileggi calls me up. This is the guy who wrote Goodfellas, Casino, Irishman, and all that. So he calls me up and he goes, Bo, he goes, I know your whole story. You're mugged 500 times and all this nonsense. And the next thing is, after I retire, he puts me in a feature article in New York Magazine, cover New York Magazine, how New York lost the detective. In the article, they mention about Rayo's, me having the Rayo's table every Thursday night. I'm getting calls from Jack Welch, Ken Langone, you name them. I thought they wanted me for security. They want to have dinner.
Yeah, so folks understand Rayo's is a very, very popular, very difficult restaurant in New York, in Brooklyn, right? And,
it's in East Harlem, New York.
And you can't get a seat. You just can't get a table.
Can't get a table. I own the table.
Bo's got a standing table every Thursday, if I'm not
mistaken.
Every
Thursday since 77. Yeah. So now with the article, all of a sudden, Nicky puts me on the cover of New York Magazine. Now everybody's calling me up. And now I'm all of a sudden, my congressman dies in office, Joe Adamo. And my brother Alan, God rest his soul, says, "Oh, why don't you run for Congress?" I said, "What does a fucking congressman do?" I didn't know. So now we look it up. But so the notoriety, I used to do the Morton Downey show, the guy who's smoking and all that shit, and Geraldo Rivera. So I was very popular doing these shows after I retired. So next thing that happens is, from all this, the next thing is I start doing acting in movie. Maniac Cop 1, Maniac Cop, and then we do Goodfellas. We actually cast 18 people at Rayo's for the movie Goodfellas. We had all these characters come in there. And then it just went on, and I started doing movies. It was enjoyable. I opened my business up.
Wait, hold on. Did DiCaprio have to approve you as the cop? And remember the scene at Rayo's? In fact,
No, that was the Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, Wolf of Wall Street. My bad. Okay,
with that scumbag Jordan Belfort, that little fucking punk Jordan Belfort. Wolf of Wall Street. He was a rat. He wore a wire. He turned into this guy. He's a little scumbag, Jordan Belfort. And then he had the greatest actor, Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, wait a minute. Bo Dietl, former cop, calling Jordan Belfort a scumbag because he wore a wire to turn in
it was a rat.
People to the police.
Hold on. If we're going to do something together.
What side of the law are we on here, Bo? And did we make the switch? Yeah.
He was pumping, dumping stock from old ladies' life savings. He was a scumbag.
Jordan was on the show 3 or 4 weeks ago.
And you tell him I said he's a little punk scumbag. He was a Napoleonic complex. Now he's so famous. Did you know he wore a wire and turned 10 of his guys in?
Did not know that.
I don't like rats, okay?
Right.
Eric, if you're gonna be in my crew and we're gonna rob banks, I get caught, you gotta take care of my family. I'm not gonna rat you out.
Correct.
I hate rats.
I got you. Okay, so now you do Goodfellas. Tell us about Wolf of Wall Street. There's also, Bo, you've been in Goodfellas and Wolf of Wall Street, literally two of the most popular movies ever to hit the screen.
Irishman. I had my two co-stars. I played a boss of De Niro and Pacino. De Niro's a scumbag, but Pacino's a good guy.
There you go. Okay, so now you're entrenched. You think this is your new the career? I saw you in Vinyl? Wasn't it a miniseries?
I played with Bobby Cannavale. That was another Scorsese series and all. Yeah, I've been in about 80 things, but No, but my business, all of a sudden, we took over the Carpenters Union. We did the big drug thing as far as buying drugs, millions of dollars overseas, showing the counterfeiting of drugs and cashing it
How?
back.
What, what do you mean your business? Tell us about the business end of
What's
it.
that?
You said my business. We took over the Carpenters Union. What do you mean you took it over? What?
We
You're,
got called. We got called by the my investigative security business.
right. There we go.
40 years I've been doing it. We got called by the head of the Carpenters Union that you had mob guys in New York that were running all the Carpenters Unions. Bo, can you do it? I said, yeah. Give me a blank check. I had 100 armed cops off duty, and we took over the whole Carpenters Union. I got death threats to my house. I go up to Rayos. I see a couple of my friends because I know everybody. I said, if I get one more fucking call at my house, I said, I'm taking this whole thing down and bring the FBI in. But we ended up taking over the union. I mean, we do all that kind of stuff. Triple murders. We have a really great investigating company, plus the security company. We've done the security for so many major events, Eric. And I tell you the truth, I enjoy it. I enjoy working still. I could never think about retiring like you. You're retired. I'm not retired. I can't retire.
Not yet. Not yet. Don't put me in the grave yet. But so, let me ask you. So there was always a code, right? New York, for it to work, there had to be the code. Like the cops had to have a lane, the mobsters had to have the lane, the gangs had to have the lane, and they rarely, when they crossed over, it made news because people died and bad things happened. But generally, make life normal for the vast majority of the 11 million people that live in the New York area. The code had to be in place. Is that still there?
Yeah, well, organized crime, to be very honest, probably from 100%, maybe it's 80% now, maybe 85% gone. That's
Gone.
it.
So it's down
Gone.
to 15,
Yeah,
10, 15,
yeah, they were
20%.
always involved because what happens is whenever there's a hint of an organized crime figure involved in any kind of a corruption or any kind of business dealing, right away the cops come in there. They go out of their way to take them down. So it's really diminished a lot. As far as the cops go, the power of the police department, especially in New York, is so diminished.
Yeah, but stay on this for a second though, because I want to say, because you say they're the mafia, the mob, the families are greatly diminished, and then what happens? Just a couple of weeks ago, we hear that the NBA, there's some NBA players and coaches who are in bed with the mob, ripping off unsuspecting whales, people with a lot of money, bring them into poker games, and they were using NBA players at the tables as decoys, as you were, back in the day, and they bring the guys in with the money, and they were ripping them off with, tables that could read their cards from the back, with glasses, even with contact lenses that could read marked cards from the back. So they were stealing tens of millions of dollars from these people, and we find out that the mob is at the center of all this.
Well,
so is it really that diminished?
Eric, but they got to get their taste too. I mean, let's be real about this shit. Wherever there's money being made, they try to make advantage. And how you think I met little scumbag Jordan Belfort? Dick Grasso called me up and said this guy who has Stratton Oakmont.
Dick Grasso was the former chairman of the New York Stock Exchange.
And I went there and I ended up meeting with Nunzio, and all the wise guys say, I got a piece of this joint. We don't need you around. So I kind of helped that little scumbag. I should have left him out to catch a beat, and they were going to get beat.
Is the mafia, is the La Cosa Nostra, are they involved in the legalized gambling trade, in the casinos and now the sports betting?
Well, look at we just saw this little. To me, that's so minute comparison of the terrorists that are running around our street. They should not waste their time on Italian organized crime. Got a couple of Italian guys making a couple of bucks. Big fucking deal.
So Bo Dietl has been very successful as a New York City, cop and detective. He's been a very successful actor. He's been very successful private investigative services. You've reinvented yourself. Which one is in your blood? Which one is in your DNA? Because you can't be all three. It's either you're a cop or you're actor and one more. Where's loyalty? Where does loyalty play into all these?
Well, I'm going to tell you very honestly, I love cops. No matter where I am in the country, I love police. And I feel horrible that they've taken the gumption out of them. So I love cops. That's where I really stand with this, but the cops cannot be cops anymore. They've taken their heart and soul. My heart still is being a cop. And I never would work in organized crime, Eric. You know why? Because I knew everybody. What am I going to have dinner with Fat Tony? Will have some macaroni and say, Tony, put your hands behind your back. I'm locking you up. No, I'd be on the street locking up the people that are robbing old ladies and beating people up and rape. That's something that's always been in my blood. And I feel so horrible that the cops cannot do their jobs anymore because every time they do their job, they're worried. Did you realize you can't give a guy a headlock? You can't get on. How do you handcuff? What do you levitate 6 foot over him, drop the handcuffs? This is what's going on. I feel so horrible for the cops.
What about acting? Is there anything on the horizon? Acting, your acting career. Is there anything on the horizon for Bo Dietl, the actor?
Oh, yeah, we got all kinds of shit going on. Matter of fact, we're going to be doing a series I think in Las Vegas. I'm going to play a casino owner. I just got a call from Rick Ewan. He's Marty Scorsese's manager. And he said, Bo, Marty wants you to play the casino control guy running the casino. I said, sure. You know, I like acting. You know, I like acting. I play there's a movie out, and I'll tell you what it's called. It's based on a true story. Guys I knew, Louis Ippolito, Caracappa, were 2 detectives. They're both dead now. What they were doing there, they were killing people for the mob. And I knew both of them. I didn't know they were doing that. Gaspard Casey was a famous guy. There's a movie called Mob Cops that Danny A put it together. It's on that cable horse shit. It's about, you know, I play a Jewish guy, and I play a guy who's steering all the murders. It was probably the greatest part I ever played. It's called Mob Cops, and it's on Amazon. I tell you, Eric, you watch that, first of all, you won't recognize me. And I play a part of a guy who's a killer, but a quiet, stealthy killer. I love this shit. I love this acting stuff.
You're good at just about, and folks, I've known Bo 20-something years. What a great guy on top of it. Yeah, he's a tough guy, but he's a solid heart. Bo, we do this all the time. It's The Edge. Just a couple of minutes left here. Do you ever find yourself during all these trials and tribulations, all these different careers and reinventions, you ever find yourself like wondering, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? And I got to do something different.
Let me tell you, I just got married. I've been with the girl for 20-something years, Margot. We just got married on August 8th because we like 8s. And we got married. We built a beautiful house in the Hamptons on the water. We got married very, very, just a family and all that. And you want to know something? I'm the happiest guy in the world. I got so much fucking energy. I'm going to St. Bart's next week for 9 days. Then I'm going again in December for 9 days. People say, how can you do that? You know how you can do it? Live life to the edge. You see the edge in back of you? Get it all. Do it all. Because you know what? If you wait and then all of a sudden you get health problems. I have so many guys that never travel. I travel the world. I do everything. Full throttle. Because you don't know when all of a sudden the Grim Reaper might come and knock on your door. So live your life to the edge. And don't ever apologize about anything you've done. Because you know what? I was a gambler, Eric, a bad gambler. I lost tens of millions of dollars. I'm not proud about it, but that was me. Thank God it's all gone. But now I've decided I have a few dollars. I'm going to spend that money. Help my children and enjoy myself.
I thought we were ending there, but I got to ask you this. So tell me about this. When were you gambling? And what were you?
What's that?
When were you gambling? What were you betting on?
2020 did a special on me about 25 years ago. I was making a lot of money. I was making about $10 million a year. I sold one company for $200 million, a software company back in '99. I was like, I would play Baccarat, and I'd play $15,000, $20,000 a card Baccarat. I loved the bank. I hate the player, and I would play that. Football, on the weekend, me and Al Tomatoes, my friend Al Tomatoes. Me and Al Tomatoes had a house on the water. We would have action going. Yeah, with bookmakers. Yes, I was. We would have sometimes almost $1 million with college games. I used to bet college, and then the late games on the West Coast, I used to double up to 40,000 a game. And I'd wake up the next morning, and all I want to do is break even. It's a sickness. I went through it. You know what I said to myself? God healed you, Bo, for that gambling addiction you have. Now you know you do. Spend your money. Have something. Don't be a jerk off. And I try to tell that to everybody. Gamblers, you're going to lose. There is no winning in gambling. They don't build these casinos with fucking winners.
There you go. What a way to end the Edge episode with Bo Dietl, my good friend for a very long time. Bo, really good having you. Love and congratulations
Eric,
on the recent wedding and your trips. Yep.
I'm very proud to be on your show. I'd love to come back whenever you want. I know a little about everything, and I'm so proud. And you know, when we were together on Fox and wherever we were, I really loved you, and I loved you wherever you went. And I'm so proud of you that you reinvented yourself, and now you got the Edge going on. Come back whenever you want. Anything you want to know about.
I love it, Bo. Keep us informed on all the new projects. Bo Dietl, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Eric.
Well, that was Bo Dietl, and what a ride he is, huh, folks? From the mean streets of New York, busting heads and cracking cases to the sets of major motion pictures, Bo's life proves one undeniable truth. Authenticity is currency. He never lost the street smarts that made him a legendary detective, and those very qualities, that real edge, is what Hollywood wanted. The takeaway is simple. Don't ever try to be something you're not, because the unique, complicated truth of who you are is the only thing that will make you indispensable. Please hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.